In 1986, Chernobyl became the scene of the world's worst nuclear disaster after an explosion during a routine maintenance check. Today, it's a tourism hotspot with visitors snapping selfies near abandoned buildings and getting as close as safety will allow. There's a name for this kind of travel. It's called dark tourism. And this morning, we're exploring what that means, how it works, and if you're doing this kind of travel, how you can do it respectfully. To help us navigate, travel expert Lauren Christie is here. Lauren, thank you so much for being here. The term is broad. I just gave an example. I give an example of dark tourism, but why don't you give me a proper definition?
Well, the definition is travelers who travel purposely to places with tragic past. So whether that's war atrocities or natural disasters, it can be pretty broad. But it's people who are seeking to go to these type of places. So Chernobyl, for example, is getting a lot of hype these days because it just recently opened up as a tourist attraction because it's now safe to go there. And also the miniseries, I think, that came out on Chernobyl, and they say that they've got record numbers of people going in 2020. So it's a little bit of a morbid fascination.
Okay, so let's give some signposts here. So it could be anything from that to Nazi death camps but would it include going so far back as, say, the Battle of Gettysburg and going to visit Civil War battlegrounds?
Well, it absolutely could, and you could go so far back as to the Colosseum in Rome if you wanted to. But again, history makes things a little bit softer, and it's really about the memory, I think, and the immediate memory. That's the difference between history and memory, and that's sort of where it gets a little murky.
Okay, what's the appeal for people?
I think fascination, and where that fascination comes from is a little bit different. For me, it's education. I find it fascinating to go to some of these places because I want to learn what happened. And I think the best way to do it is upfront and personal. I went to Auschwitz a couple years ago. It was emotionally draining. It's an incredible place to visit. But I really feel, you say if you have to learn about things in order for history not to repeat itself, you got to learn why it happened and what happened.
And I guess so much of it is about a person's intent when they go to these places as well. The concern that I think a lot of people might have is people trying to do it for the gram and disrespecting hallowed grounds.
Exactly, and I think you just need to think about that. Check your intentions. Hopefully, when you're there, whether your intentions are the gram or not is another thing for debate. But make sure that you're conducting yourself properly, no matter what your intentions are. So, keep comments respectful. Follow signage or guides that are telling you not to stray off the path. For example, again in Chernobyl, it could be a safety issue. Some of these buildings are condemned, so you can't just go wandering around. In many of these cases, they are memorials to the dead. So it is very disrespectful to not follow what they say. Try, as you said, about the photos. Also ask, is it appropriate to take photos? And in some cases, I do see that some people experience a place through the lens of a camera, and I appreciate that. But taking selfies and being inappropriate is not cool. And there was, stories of influencers who went to Chernobyl and they were taking sexually suggestive pictures at the site, and it just is not appropriate. And in some cases, it's also not safe. We talk about the here in Canada last year, 3 YouTubers were out in Shannon Falls, which was not a dark tourism piece, but they went out to take a spot and they wanted that excellent shot. And they lost their lives because of it.
Is social media pushing that envelope a little too far? I mean, this is a relatively new form of tourism, which means it's going to be evolving. And it's going to be evolving with social media hand in glove. So how can we help steer that the ship so that social media isn't wagging the dog?
Yeah, well, I think people who are social media influencers in particular need to take the lead on that. They need to understand that they are influencing people to follow them, and if they're endangering their own lives to take a picture or being disrespectful themselves to get a particular picture, they're then letting other people say that that's okay. And I think there is a responsibility there for them to take the lead and not do things that endanger or disrespect.
Well, we saw that last year when that prominent YouTuber went into the Japanese suicide forest, and he put someone who had hanged themselves on his vlog, and got into a lot of trouble for that. He ended up having to walk that back significantly.
Exactly, and there are tons of examples. And the other one that's making a lot of rounds these days is there's a Siberian lake that looks like it's called the Maldives of Siberia, and it looks this wonderful blue. Well, the wonderful blue was called by toxic chemicals from a coal plant going into the water, and there are signs everywhere that you should not be going in this water.
Kidding. exciting.
So these people, although this looks lovely, are actually endangering themselves and therefore encouraging other people to endanger
You
themselves.
know, I gotta say though, it's social Darwinism at its best.
Yeah.
If those people want to go take a swim in that water, I say more power to them. Actually, I'm just kidding. I would never suggest that. Next summer, I'm taking my sons on a tour of early American history. We're doing Philadelphia, Boston, and Washington D.C. because I want that proper context for them before they go on with the rest of their lives. It might be ancient history to some, but to me, it's very much alive.
No, and it's important to do that.
Yeah.
So I think as long as your intent is there, it's good.
Thank you very much, my friend. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe here.
And you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.